Yes, indeedy. Back like I never left. Shivu Brody. Yes, indeed. Lovely to be back here in wonderful, wonderful Melbourne. It's been a long time coming, and it's been a very eventful and wonderful last few months. So many things have happened, as you know, and we're back at it. First and final with Shivu Brody. This is the fastest growing podcast in this space that we're operating in Asia Pacific. This is an authentic, genuine, wonderful voice to add to the discourse, and we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Woo! We're back at it. Shivu Brody already. So, as you know, like since the last time that we spoke out here, many things have occurred. We've got an escalation in the Middle East, in West Asia, as they're calling it now. Geopolitically, it's quite sensitive. It's delicate. I'm not gonna lie. You have to keep in mind that this is a part of the world that, for at least the last 3,000 years has been in turmoil. It's been hellish. There's never been a period for more than 3 or 4 years in the last 3,000 years in the Middle East and West Asian arena where you could say, yep, they are having some sort of, I guess, what you would say like normalcy, where you've got productivity happening, you've got some kind of joy in the population, you've got some kind of further advancement of the human condition and psyche. We're talking about a troubled region here. And look, it's delicate. It's delicate. Firstly, I want to come out and say that every country and every people in this world has the innate right to stand up for themselves. To stand up for themselves, to be counted, to not be a victim, to not be erased or belittled by someone else. I respect Israel's right to punch back. They're not having an eternal beef with the Palestinians or the Arab populations that surround them. If you know of any Jewish people, if you know of any Israeli people, you would know that these people are really forward thinking. They're very progressive. They're what they call technocratic. They're people who think in a way that's, how can we improve? How can we get better every day? How can we keep advancing ourselves, advance our people, advance our civilization? That's the reason why the Jewish people are still here. That's why they're still here. That's why, despite being surrounded by, what many would say is hostile people, they're still here. They're still alive. They're still kicking. They're still standing up for themselves, standing up for their ancestors, and trying to protect their way of life and make their mark in this world. And they certainly have. They certainly have. The Jewish people and the Israeli people in general are pretty successful. If you go down the line of any board of directors of major tech companies, finance companies, engineering, etc., you'll see many people who happen to be Israeli nationals or Jewish origin people. So they're certainly punching above their weight. They're certainly making their mark, and it's remarkable. I personally think that they should do whatever they need to go ahead and sustain themselves. No other culture has a right to say that you don't deserve to be here. And unfortunately, there are people surrounding Israel in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran, most notably, who are saying, nope, like, we're not going to tolerate an Israeli state or a Zionist state next to us. And I just don't think that that's a valid argument. I don't think one should say, yep, you should be here or you shouldn't be here. It's not for you to say. It's not for you to decide. If anything, people who think like that, they shouldn't be here. They should not be around here trying to belittle others or make others feel like, they're a burden. And, the Israeli people have every right, as much as any Arabian or Muslim person, to be there in the Middle East. So that's my take on it. And yeah, I know there's a lot of negativity and a huge rise in anti-Semitism right now. I'm seeing it online. I'm seeing it on the streets. Just having coffees and chatting to people. It's coming up in daily convos in a way that never used to happen. I have to say, it never ever used to happen like that. There was kind of like a taboo aura surrounding discussing Israel, surrounding the Jewish people, and we're seeing that veil that has certainly lifted. People are openly saying really nasty and outright mean things about them, and I feel like that's something that we need to be mindful of. We can't become the bully. I feel like the pro-Palestine people, they've become the bully that they claim to hate so much and claim to despise in the Zionists. I feel like, if anything, they're throwing their weight around. Yeah, so I feel that the pro-Palestine mob, they're the ones throwing their weight around. They're the ones saying that, hey, you guys are this and that. You're evil. You're despicable. You are bullies. You're what they like to throw around the G word. You're genocidal. You're haters. All kinds of things. And I personally think that you're saying all this, but are you defending the meek? Are you defending the helpless? I mean, Hamas is a Palestinian entity. It's made up of Palestinian people. They're all born and raised in Palestine. If you can equate Hamas to the Palestinian people, I think that is something that you can do. And Hamas does evil things. Hamas does terrible things. And so we're not talking about a bunch of harmless, innocent, meek people like I would say the Hindu people in India. We're talking about people who are very robust, very bold, very aggressive, in your face. We're talking about people who are certainly agitated to the Israeli people. And, I always say every person, every community has a right to stand up for themselves. If somebody punches you, we're not in Gandhi's time. This is a new age. We're not in Jesus' time either. We're not turning the other cheek. There's no turning the other cheek. If somebody punches your teeth out, you don't say, yep, get the other one. You punch them right back. You stand up like a man and you punch them right back. So I feel all the power to Israel. Go get them. If they want to have hate, if they want to try and bully you and belittle you because you're Jewish, because you don't pray to their God or don't perform the rituals that they find appealing, we're not standing for that. It's 2026. This is a new era. We're in a postmodern era. We are living in the AI era now as well. And that's certainly not the case. Nobody should kowtow to anyone else's ideologies or bizarre doctrines and dogmas. The Israeli people are doing the right thing, I believe. If they have to be as tough as they need to be, because as they say, it only takes one loss. It only takes one loss to go extinct. We saw that with the mighty and once glorious people of Persia. If you know about history, if you know about geopolitics, the people of Persia had a wonderful, wonderful history. They were right there. If you really know history, they were there in ancient times, along with the ancient Hindus in the Indus Valley civilization, in Mohenjo-Daro, etc. These are people who've been there for a few thousand years. Firstly, as Zoroastrian people, fire worshipping people who are very similar to Hindus. It's quite interesting. I just on a personal level, I've been to India twice now, and I did see a Zoroastrian fire temple, and to me, I feel like they're right there with Hindus. They are almost like naturalistic, very like esoteric-minded people. They're not monotheistic. Like, they're certainly people who are having many deities, and they see a variety of gods and deities at hand. But I think they're very much akin to real Hindus, like in the proper sense, like Sanatani Dharmic people. And as we know in history, when the Arab Caliphate came to Persia, it was within one generation. It really was within 45 years that all of Persia lost its way and lost their heritage. The Zoroastrian people essentially went extinct. We do have remnants of the Zoroastrian people now in Bharat, in India, and as people know, they fled. They fled in a hurry on the one ship, one or two ships that they had at hand, and went to Gujarat and essentially begged for asylum. And out of the goodness of their hearts, of the soft Hindu hearts, they did give them a place to stay, and they've been there for the last 1,300 years. I think it's around there, 1,200, 1,300 years. So they've been there, multiple centuries and generations now. Very much intrinsically part of modern day India and Bharat, and but yeah, their native motherland, the Zoroastrians, are essentially extinct. There might be some small communities living in, I guess, under duress, you could say. Like, they're not openly living their culture the way they want to. They're kind of doing in hiding. But yes, there's an example of what the Arab people would like to do to the Jewish people. They want that to happen. What they did to Persia is what they want to do to Israel. They want them to be scared. They want them to be hidden. They want them to be in hiding. They want them to really lose their pride and lose their balls, essentially. So there's no other way to put it. That's essentially what they want to do. And I feel like more power to Israel. Stand up for yourselves. Don't let anyone else make you go extinct. You have every right to be there just as anyone else. And in fact, I wish that the Hindu people in India took lessons from Israel. I really think that there's some really practical lessons to learn from how Israel operates. It's a no holds barred. It's take no prisoners approach. It's stand up for yourself. It's be bold, be courageous, do what you need to. You have to play dirty sometimes. If the opponent's gonna get in the mud, if the opponent's gonna hide his hand behind his back and throw sucker punches, sometimes you have to play dirty too. Sometimes you've got to play dirty too. And so there is a noble nature in the way India operates and the way I guess Hindu people operate, where they feel like, oh no, we have to abide by our Sanskari culture, our wonderful Hindu ethics. But sometimes, if you're in a street fight, you're not going to be able to ask your opponents to put on gloves and to wear a helmet. Sometimes you're going to have to get a bottle and knock it over his head too. If he's trying to swing for the fences, you've got to swing right back. So that's how I see it, and I think that's the take to have on it. I think these people who are doing this soft claws bullying of people, trying to beat their brow and trying to make them pro-Palestine or anti-Israeli or anti-Jewish, totally lost people, totally confused, ignorant of history. These people don't know what they're on. These people are what they call useful idiots. And they just need to they need to come back to reality. And I just wish that they wouldn't bring this to Australia. I'm so tired of going to Hyde Park on the weekend and trying to take a stroll around with my wonderful wonderful latte with extra cinnamon on top, and seeing a bunch of, there's no other way to put it, a bunch of rabid fools flying flags and yelling into the microphone and staring down the normal general public who are walking by and trying to enjoy their Sunday. These people are total fools. I think there's a small part of them that is quite altruistic. They think like, oh, there's a genocide and we need to help the people being genocided. I think there's a small population of them who are out there doing precisely that. But I think many of them are just trying to do some pro-Arab supremacy piece, and it's really not appreciated. Please, it's not appreciated. When you consider that most of these people have come here in the country as refugees from Lebanon, as refugees from Syria or Iraq, these aren't the best and brightest in the world. These are not skilled people who've gone and studied computer science, who've gone and studied economics, gone and studied their degrees in engineering or whatever it is that's what you consider like to be like high IQ subjects. These are people who are, happened to be born in the wrong place, and they've bowed down and pretty much begged to come over as refugees, because that's what a refugee is. They feel like they're that's they've so that's really my take on it. That's really where we're at with that piece, and we'll come back to this in another episode as well. Thanks kindly. First to final was Shivu Brody. We're on our way. Let's get it.